Yeah, this wasn't necessarily a bold prediction. I just was looking for a little banter, to be honest. But Lamar Jackson and all indications on Twitter, just coming out of camps and stuff like that, videos we're seeing. Obviously, everyone saw him, kind of yoked up on a video where he's all buff in the off season. He's put on some weight. Um, I think the staff over there in Baltimore, starting with John Harbaugh in the front office, they know they have a franchise quarterback, but they also know that he's only going to be of value if he stays on field. So I think that this offseason they put a real emphasis on his health. I think he's gonna bounce back to be a top 10 fantasy QB this year. He fell out of the top 10 last year. He was number 15 PPR. But with that said, everyone knows he has the ability to be in the top 10. I think he plays all 17 games this year. So here's where it becomes bold, is I think he plays all 17 games, which he didn't play a full season last year. He struggles with injuries, just little nagging injuries. He doesn't miss a lot of time, but I do think he plays all 17 games this year. He's gonna have close to a career year, probably pass around 3,100 yards, which is close to his career high. 25 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions is where I have him at. And then, of course, we know he's going to rush for a lot of yards, so I have him at. My prediction is about 750 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns, which should easily put him right there in the top 10, low-end QB1, maybe even get in that mid-tier even. So I think he's going to bounce back, not necessarily a bold prediction. He's gonna have a good year. Bateman should have a good year, I think. And just that offense, the way they scheme things for healthy Lamar Jackson, and even when Hundley came in, was it Hundley? Yeah, came in last year to fill in for him. You could tell that they really schemed for their quarterbacks and their athletic skill set. So Jackson gonna bounce back. Any two QB leagues definitely should be targeting Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, we're going to give our top 5 fantasy QBs later this week on Wednesday, so I won't give away too much. But I will say this: I think that Lamar Jackson should be a top 10 fantasy quarterback, obviously with his skill set and the fact that he's been the MVP and he's just an electrifying athlete. And I think that, outside of fantasy, if you can kind of correlate one with the other, I think if he's not a top 10 fantasy quarterback this year, that means that the Baltimore Ravens are struggling and they're having a terrible year. They like you said, they scheme for him that much. They depend on him that much that if he doesn't play lights out and finish in the top 10, I think that the Ravens are in for a long season. That means that they're a losing team. And I don't think there's any other way to put it. So I say for his sake, obviously, hopefully you're right. I think that if he does struggle, he's setting himself up to get franchise tagged rather than signing a long-term extension. I think a lot, again, if he's not a top 10 fantasy quarterback, that means he's struggling, the team's struggling. And it gives the Ravens ownership pause on signing him to a long-term deal, especially with the type of quarterback that he is and the way that he plays. And not that he gets injured a lot. He does get injured. He takes bumps and bruises, pretty often. But, guys like that have a shelf life. And at some point, that style of play catches up with you in the NFL. And it takes that one hit or that one wrong move, that one juke that blows out your knee or something. Hopefully that doesn't happen, knock on wood, because I love watching Lamar Jackson and I would never wish for anybody to get hurt. But we've seen guys that play like that. All it takes is one play changes their entire career. So I think that if he does struggle and he's not a top 10 fantasy quarterback this year, then he's looking at getting franchise tagged, and he's going to have to prove it again next year that he deserves to get that long-term extension.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a great year. Historically, the Ravens are a good organization. They're good at bouncing back. So I think Lamar Jackson's going to bounce back in a big way. You won't see him in my top 5 later in this week, but he has the skills to be top 5. Obviously, he was number 1 at one point, not too long ago. I think 2 seasons ago, actually. 3 seasons ago. Sorry, but he's going to get back in that top 10 this year easily.
Yeah, yeah. I was looking at Fantasy Pros. I think they put out their consensus top 20, and I think Lamar was. I think he was in like number 11 or something like that. I would have to double check. Um, I don't know if I'll put him in my top 5, but I think that I think that he's going to have a bounce back year. I think he's going to have a big year. Again, you got to give credit to that coaching staff, John Harbaugh. They do a great job of scheming for Lamar and putting him in positions where he can showcase his strengths. And I think that last year was just a rough year for them from the beginning because of the injuries they had. They were down to
Especially the running back position.
Yeah, they were down to like their 4th string running back before the
Yeah.
season even started. So I think that put a lot of pressure on him. And he was doing, I mean, there were a few games last year where Lamar Jackson was like Superman, basically, and really delivered for them. He just couldn't do it for the entire season. And I think that if they can stay healthy, that he can definitely have a phenomenal year fantasy-wise.
Yep, I think he's in line for it.